My name is Eleanor Hayes. I'm 68 and I still live on my own.
I still drive my own car. I still cook my own meals. And every Saturday morning, I mow my own lawn slowly but properly. I've never considered myself old. Not in the way people mean it when they start lowering their voices around you. Not in the way they begin offering help you didn't ask for. So when I opened my phone that morning and checked my calendar, I didn't think much of it at first. It was a Tuesday. Quiet. Ordinary. There was an entry at 12:30 p.m. Lunch with Emily. Emily is my daughter-in-law. I remember thinking it was nice. Unexpected but nice. She doesn't usually schedule lunches. Not with just me. But then I noticed the address. I stared at it for a moment longer than I should have. Then I tapped it. It wasn't a restaurant. It wasn't even near one. It was a place called Silver Grove Assisted Living Community. I read it twice. Then a third time. I thought maybe I'd clicked the wrong event. But no. Same title. Same time. Lunch with Emily. At an assisted living facility. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I simply locked my phone and set it down on the kitchen counter. Then I poured myself a cup of coffee the same way I always do. 2 sugars, a splash of milk, and stood by the window. The backyard looked exactly as it had the day before. Neatly trimmed. Quiet. Familiar. Nothing had changed. And yet something had. Emily has always been polite. That's the word people use when they don't quite know what else to say. She's never raised her voice at me. Never said anything openly cruel. But there's a certain efficiency to her. The way she speaks. The way she organizes things. The way she makes decisions. She works in project management, I believe. Something corporate. Something structured. My son Daniel says she's very good at what she does. I believe him. Daniel used to call me every Sunday, just to check in. It became less frequent after he got married. That's normal, I suppose. People build their own lives. But over time the calls turned into texts, then into occasional updates. Busy this week, Mom. Work's been crazy. We'll visit soon. They always said we. I don't remember when that started. Around 6 months ago, Emily began stopping by more often. First it felt thoughtful. She'd bring groceries sometimes, or ask if I needed anything from the store. She started mentioning things like safety. Those stairs look a bit steep. Have you ever thought about installing handrails? You know, there are communities where everything is on one level. I would nod, smile, tell her I was fine. As I was. A few weeks later, Daniel came over with a toolbox. He said he wanted to fix a few things. He checked the smoke detectors, replaced a light fixture in the hallway. Then he stood in the kitchen, looking around in a way I couldn't quite place. As if he were assessing something. It's a lot of house, Mom, he said casually. I remember wiping my hands on a dish towel. It's the same house I've had for 32 years, I replied. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. That same evening, Emily mentioned something new. Not directly. Not at first. She talked about a colleague whose mother had transitioned into a community. Used that word. Transitioned. She's so much happier now, Emily said. More social. More support. I stirred my tea slowly. That's good for her, I said. Emily nodded. Yes. It really depends on timing. I didn't think much of it then. Or maybe I chose not to. There's a difference. Back in the present, I finished my coffee and rinsed the cup. The calendar notification sat quietly in my phone. Waiting. Picked it up again. Read it once more. Lunch with Emily. 12:30 p.m. Silver Grove Assisted Living. I decided to go. The building was pleasant. That's the word I would use. Clean. Bright. Quiet in a controlled way. There were flower beds near the entrance. Carefully maintained. Inside, the air smelled faintly of lemon and something else I couldn't quite identify. Emily was already there. She waved when she saw me, as if we were meeting at a cafe. Hi, Eleanor, she said warmly. Not Mom. Not anything personal. Just Eleanor. We sat down in a small lounge area. There was a woman at the front desk who smiled at me. Not in a casual way. In a knowing way. As if she recognized me. Have you been here before? I asked Emily. She hesitated. Just for a second. Not personally, she said, but I've heard very good things. A woman in a navy blazer approached us. She introduced herself as Karen, community director. She shook my hand with both of hers. Eleanor, we've been expecting you. I turned to Emily. She didn't look at me. She was adjusting her bag, checking something on her phone. Karen began talking about amenities, about safety, about community. She spoke in smooth, practiced sentences. I listened,
All right, I'm heading
nodded
out.
occasionally,
Don't do anything I wouldn't
as
do.
if I were
Please,
part of the
you know me better than
conversation,
that.
as if I had agreed to be there. At one point, Karen mentioned something that made me pause. We've already discussed the floor plan options your family was interested in. Your family. I didn't interrupt. I didn't correct her. I simply folded my hands in my lap and continued listening. We toured a room. Small. Efficient. Everything within reach. No stairs. No sharp corners. No history. Many of our residents say it feels like a fresh start, Karen said. A fresh start. At 68. When the tour ended, Emily asked a few questions. Practical ones. Costs. Availability. Waiting lists. I stood beside her, silent. On the drive home, she spoke lightly. I thought it would be good for you to see what's out there. Out there. I kept my eyes on the road. You put it on my calendar, I said. Not accusing, just stating. She smiled. I didn't want to overwhelm you. I nodded once. That was the end of the conversation. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with my phone in front of me. The house was quiet. It always had been. But that night, the silence felt different. I opened my calendar again. Scrolled back. Appointments I didn't remember making. Reminders I hadn't set. Small things. Subtle things. I opened my email. There were messages. From places I hadn't contacted. Subject lines about next steps. About planning ahead. I closed the phone. Sat still for a long time. Then I stood up and walked to the hallway closet. Reached for a small box on the top shelf. Inside were documents. Old ones. Important ones. My husband, Richard, had been very organized. He believed in preparation, in clarity, in making sure things were understood. I sat back down and opened the folder. There were copies of everything. The house, the accounts, the trust. I read through them carefully, not quickly, not emotionally, just thoroughly. Nothing had changed. Not yet. The next morning I made a phone call to Richard's attorney. His name is Martin Keller. He answered on the second ring. Eleanor, he said. It's been a while. Yes, I replied. It has. I asked him a few questions. Simple ones. Clarifications. Possibilities. He listened. Didn't interrupt. At the end of the call, he said something I'll remember. Do you want to make any changes? I looked around my kitchen. At the table. The walls. The quiet. Yes, I said. I think I do. A week later, Daniel came by. Unannounced. He does that sometimes. We sat in the living room. He looked uneasy. Emily said you seemed quiet after the visit, he began. I nodded. I was thinking. He leaned forward. We just want what's best for you, Mom. I studied his face. He meant it. In his own way. I understand that, I said. And when were you planning to tell me? He blinked. What do you mean? About the tour, the planning, the conversations. He exhaled slowly. We didn't want to worry you. I smiled. A small one. You made decisions, I said, about my life.
So this is where we
without
stand.
asking me.
We cannot let the
He
past
didn't
define the
respond.
future we are building.
After a moment, he
we
said,
must move forward.
It just seemed like the right
together.
time. The right time. I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the yard. I canceled the follow-up appointment, I said. He was quiet behind me. And I met with Martin, I added. That got his attention. I've updated a few things, I continued, just to make sure everything is clear. He didn't ask what that meant. I think he understood enough. I'm not moving, I said finally. Not because I'm afraid of change, but because this is still my life. I turned back to him. You don't schedule someone's future, I said calmly. Like it's a lunch reservation. He nodded slowly. We didn't argue. We didn't raise our voices. He left not long after. That night, I opened my calendar again. Scrolled to that Tuesday. The event was still there. Lunch with Emily. I tapped it. Pressed delete. And for the first time in a while, my schedule felt like it belonged to me again. I made myself a cup of tea. Sat by the window. The backyard looked the same. Quiet. Familiar. But something had changed. Not the house. Not the day. Just the understanding. And that, I think, made all the difference.